Hello and welcome to Science Fun with Miss Mary. Today we're going to create moon craters and learn a little bit about the moon. If you picked up a kit from the library, inside the bag you'll find a tin, a little cup of baby oil, a bag full of flour, 3 rocks, and 2 space astronauts. Let's talk a little bit about the moon before we get started. So the moon orbits the Earth. Astronauts landed on Earth's moon in 1969. They collected dust and rocks to study. Today we are creating moon craters and doing a little science fun along with it. Do you know what craters are? Can you see it in the picture? Craters on the moon look like big round circles with high sides. They were made by huge space boulders that hit the moon and bounced off. Most of the craters on the moon are billions of years old. And here's a picture of an astronaut leaving his footprint on the moon. Now that we've learned a little bit about the moon and craters, let's dive into the items that are in our kit. As we're doing this, I want you to think about the craters on the moon. How do you think they got there? And do we have any on Earth? So think about that while you get your bag out. Your bag is full of flour, and you're gonna leave the flour in the bag, but you're gonna open up the top. And then you're going to take that cup of clear liquid, and that's baby oil. So you have to be very careful. When I was trying to do this, I did spill it everywhere, and it's very oily. And if you get it on your clothes, you just have to use a little dish soap to get out. So we're going to be very careful with this. So I'm going to lift the lid, and instead of setting it straight down, I'm going to turn my lid over and set it down so all of the liquid that was up on the top doesn't get on the table. It just goes on the other side of the lid. And then I'm going to grab this whole thing, and you're just going to dump it into your bag. And once you're done with that, you can put the top back on and throw that away, unless you want to rinse it out and keep it for other things. And most important, we are going to zip this bag up. We are going to make sure it's zipped good and strong because you do not want this everywhere. Once that is zipped, you're going to see that some of the baby oil got on the flour. Some of it turned like a yellow color, and the powder is still white. So what you're going to do with this in here is just keep moving it around. And you're going to knead it like you're kneading bread. I want to keep moving it around. And if you see all of the parts that are still stuck to the bag, means that it just needs to just keep going, mixing it up. You'll know it's ready when there's nothing else stuck to the sides of the bag, and if everything's a slightly yellow color from the flour. So I'm just going to keep moving it around, mixing it up until everything looks about the same consistency, so it all looks about the same. I'm just kind of moving it around, see if I see any more yellow bits that haven't been mixed up. Alright, and then once you feel like you've got it all mixed up, you're going to take your tray, open up that bag, and you might have made more than fits in the tray. So I'm just going to pour a little bit at a time into my tray. And then move it around, and if I still have room, you could put more in. And you can use up the whole flour that's in your bag if it fits, or you could always save some in your bag for later if you want to try it again. All right. So when we put our flour baby oil mixture into the tin, I think if you look up this recipe, it's called cloud dough. So if you ever want to make it again, you could look up that. It's 4 cups of flour and 4 ounces of baby oil. And then you just mix it up. So with this, when I poured it in, it's very crumbly and light in there. So before I pat it down, I want to leave it like this for a moment and see if we could try this experiment before we pat it down and if we could still see those craters. At this time, you're going to find your rocks and we're going to do a couple experiments. So you could take your rock and you could drop it from very close. You could take that same rock and drop it from higher up. See how it goes in even further? And then you could take that same rock and drop it from even higher and see what happens. And you do have 3. So the other thing you can do is drop 3 different ones from 3 different heights. And then you could pick up the rock. And what happened? Do you see the craters we created? Now I can see them pretty good even though I didn't pack down the flour mixture. You might not be able to see it on the recording as much, but I hope you were able to see it with the one in front of you. The other thing you can try is remove your rocks. You can kind of mess up those little craters you just made and very lightly pat down the whole top. Now if I pat it down too hard, it might be too hard to make the craters in, but if you lightly tap it just to smooth out the top, then we try making our craters. Let's see if it's easier to see the craters. So I'm gonna drop one a little bit closer. I'm gonna drop one a little bit higher up, and then one as high up as I could reach. Whoa. Well, those worked pretty good. So I can still see these craters pretty good. The only thing I was worried about, if I packed this down too much, if I pushed way too hard, and then if I try to drop one of these in, it's not as cushy, so it's not gonna leave as much of a crater. So that's why we want to keep it a little bit light, and even if you want to smooth down your surface area, just lightly pat it. And then when you drop it, pew, it still leaves a nice crater that we can look at. Now, as we've been working on this, have you thought about why there's craters on the moon? And does the Earth have any? All right, let's answer those questions. A thick layer of gases called the atmosphere surrounds Earth. There is no atmosphere around the moon. There's no lunar wind, rain, or snow. The sky is always black. Without air, sound cannot travel on the moon. The moon is a lifeless, silent place. There is no wind, liquid water on the moon, Its surface changes very, very slowly. The moon is covered in a layer of powdery soil and scattered rocks. Dust on the moon can sit in the same place for hundreds of years. The moon has a very thin atmosphere. It gets hit by many asteroids. As a result, the asteroids leave mountains and large craters across the moon's surface. The moon's gravity causes regular rises and falls in the Earth's sea levels. These are called tides. The moon's gravity also slows Earth's rotation over time. So that explains a little bit about the moon, with the moon not having any atmosphere to protect it. Now let's talk about the Earth. Shooting stars. A shooting star is not really a star. It is a small, hot piece of space rock. Shooting stars are also known as meteors. They look like stars falling out of the sky. Often lots of space rock fall at once, and it's called a meteor shower. Space rocks heat up if they come too near to Earth, and they burn away, leaving a trail behind them. Some rocks are too big to burn up, so they will hit Earth. This is a huge crater that was made by a rock that fell in Arizona in the USA. Now, based on what we've learned about the moon and the Earth's atmosphere, what did you think? Did you know that the Earth has craters left by meteors? So those two books helped us learn a little bit more about our craters, how the moon has lots of craters and the Earth does have some. And the main reason is that the moon doesn't have an atmosphere to protect it, and the Earth does have an atmosphere, and if the rocks are small enough, they're able to burn up before they even get to the Earth. It also helps explain why the moon has so many craters. Can you see all that? We see only one side of the moon from Earth. The side we cannot see is called the far side of the moon. Spacecraft have taken pictures of the far side. The pictures show almost no flat areas. The far side of the moon is covered with many craters. It sure does. Now that we've learned about the moon and how craters are formed, you are welcome to take your rocks and continue to make craters and come up with your own question and come up with your own science questions and see if you can find the answers to them. If you're done having science fun, you are welcome to switch over to just playing with it. There are 2 astronauts in each of your kits, and you are welcome to continue to explore the moon's surface. All right, until next time, goodbye.